Hello, thank you for clicking on this video, and I'm curious if you're the person who has spent many years figuring out what career path to choose and maybe tried a few and still couldn't settle on one. If any of this sounds more like you, you probably are multipotentialites. In this video, I would like to speak about multipotentialites as a person who has spent many years trying to figure out my career path, has read so many books, has literally trained to become a career specialist and career counselor, and only recently, literally only like a week ago or so, I finally put a word on the kind of hypothesis or on the description of myself and people like me. So today I'd like to speak about this book. And Lil B will help me with that because she's always helping me in my YouTube videos. Lil B and I will speak today about this book, How to Be Everything, a guide for those who still don't know what they want to be when they grow up, by Emilie Wapnick. I learned about this book, I don't know how I learned about this book, and actually I've heard the term multipotentialites like a few years ago, but it didn't click that this was me specifically. So first things first, who are multipotentialites? These are the people who have lots of interests and who do not feel fulfilled if they pursue just one career path. The way I see it is that people are not just like multipotentialites or not multipotentialites. Just like with many things in life, I feel like it's a spectrum, and people who are multipotentialites, who are on that side of the spectrum, are all different, incredibly different, because a multipotentialite life can be very rich and very diverse and multifaceted. Whereas the people who are on the other side of the spectrum, those are the people who would pursue one career in a lifetime. They would find that one career and they would stick to it for years and years and decades. And there are three things that I got from this book that I want to speak about in this video. The first one is just the fact that there is a term for people like me. People keep asking me, so what do you actually do for a living? And I do so many things as part of my full-time job. Like I literally do so many things within our company, and they're different, and they're kind of interdisciplinary, and they require different skills, to the point where it's just so incredibly hard to tell people what I'm actually doing for a living, right? I usually would say something like head of product and marketing, but as a head of product and marketing, I actually do lots of hands-on different tasks, like shooting videos, editing videos, also right now, like managing a marketing team, and doing some graphic design and doing some strategy and like business, thinking about the business plans, etc. for the company. So I do lots of stuff, and I do photography on the side, and I do cat rescuing on the side. Right now I'm super into fitness and kind of doing a lot of that on the side and thinking about pursuing it a little bit more seriously. So I'm doing so many multiple things that there is no way I can put it into my Instagram handle or into my LinkedIn account. Just reading this book in the beginning and the description of multipotentialites and how they move from one career to another, that was so revealing and so powerful to me, at least to me as a person who likes to understand, and rationalize where I stand in terms of categories or personality types. The second interesting thing that I found in this book is the kind of summarization of what are three things that you as a multipotentialite would want to have in your life to feel accomplished and to feel satisfied. And these are very simple: money, meaning, and variety. And I think for some people, we're not speaking about multipotentialites, but just generally people in the world, money and kind of the accomplishment, career accomplishments are the key things, right? This is what they want to achieve. This is what they want to achieve the most. For others, it's like money and meaning. They really want, their job to be fulfilling, to make a difference. And maybe they're not even seeking, that much of financial reward for it. The people who work in NGOs, etc. But then for multipotentialites, we also have the third point, which is variety. And this is definitely how I feel. Variety long term, but also sometimes for some people it's about actually variety of your day-to-day tasks in the job. And kind of thinking just about that, about those three points, it helped me look through a slightly different angle, I guess more simplistic angle actually, into my career paths before and how I switched them or didn't pursue certain fields. So for instance, the first chapter of my life, and I see my life as chapters, it's like a list of short stories rather than the whole, a one story, because of the different careers that I had and probably will have. So the first chapter of my life was about international policy and specifically energy policy. I studied international policy in my undergrad, then I studied it for my master's degree. In between those two, I was writing articles, reports, and wrote and published a book about Iraqi energy policy. I was doing overall general Middle Eastern energy policy and specifically focusing on Iraq. And that book that I wrote, it for me was actually the end of my chapter related to international policy. And the reason, or the way I left that particular chapter and closed it was, it was actually not easy and not fun at all, because I was, by the time I published that book and by the time I got into my international policy degree at Stanford, I was very depressed. I had a generalized anxiety disorder. I had all sorts of symptoms, and I was not happy with my life. And through therapy, when I started therapy, I realized that I chose a wrong career path. One of the reasons why I felt that it was a wrong path was because I did not feel like it was meaningful in any way. I felt like I was doing the reports, I was writing reports and articles and analysis of the policy, while the policy was literally determined by the egos and by kind of corrupt intentions of the politicians. And I felt that my work, specifically trying to see some strategy behind the decisions that were driven by personal greed and personal interest, was just so useless, was so incredibly useless. And so I decided to switch. Briefly, I had my short period of time when I worked for a studio in LA, a short film production studio in LA. At some point I thought, oh, Hollywood, this is what I want to do. I want to go full on creative and I want to work in Hollywood. And I went to Hollywood, I packed my bags after graduating from Stanford. Next day, in the morning, I took a bus to LA, one-way ticket, and I started to work part-time in the production studio. But I already, through that and through some Stanford experiences, I built certain impression about, Hollywood as a bubble of its own, a world of its own. And even though I loved certain parts of it, I felt like I will not feel like I belong there, because that industry is also very much driven by egos, and in terms of the meanings, and values, it did not resonate with me. Then I started my YouTube channel in Russian language about university admissions, and specifically, shared about my experience applying to Stanford and getting in, preparing for applications, etc. And it got very positive, response. And in that way, I decided to actually go and work as a university admissions counselor. So I applied for jobs and I landed one here in Dubai. And for a few years, I worked as a university admissions counselor. I got my meaning, my money, and my variety covered, because I was not only doing university admissions counseling, I also was doing graphic design and a little bit of marketing for the company. And a year into my job, I also started to do career counseling. So I already made this job very interdisciplinary from the beginning. So I did have the variety and I did feel the meaning and purpose in my work, but only for the first few years, because then I kind of got tired of that industry, and specifically about how much of a gray area it is, and also about how the private counselors who do incredible work, but they're helping the people who need help the least, because we have very high price tag and work with very privileged students. So I did not feel like the meaning resonates with me. And so I switched my job within the same company to work on producing online courses that are much more affordable about university admissions. And through that work, I was shooting videos, I was editing videos, I was also, creating websites, marketing the events, hosting the webinars. So I was doing lots of things, and being in a small team that doesn't have a separate marketing office, doesn't have a separate sales office or anything at all, it really helped me build my own path. And that's actually something that I think was mentioned in the book as well, that like multi-potentialites tend to be drawn and thrive in the companies that are smaller in size, because there you can juggle multiple things, and the interdisciplinary thinkers who are not who don't just focus on one little set of tasks are very much appreciated and actually can bring a lot of value. I cannot see myself in the corporate environment or like in a big company environment, because it would be so incredibly boring for me. It would be so incredibly boring. So these are the top 2 takeaways from this book. It's only the start, and I want to speak in more details about the lives that multi-potentialites can create based on what is written in this book. Just in the next video. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that some of you are as excited about this particular word and identifying with this word as I was, because I feel like this word is made to glamorize and to promote the lifestyle of a person who specializes in one thing, right? I meet a lot of students who have lots of interests, right, for career sessions. And I see the struggle, I see the struggle in them, the same struggle that I had when I was not sure what career to pursue. And then I meet sometimes the people who are, older, way older, and I see their struggle as well with explaining, why they switched careers so many times, and why they are considering, doing something new. This book gave me a real peace of mind, and also it kind of confirmed the concepts that I had in my mind, but I didn't have the proper words for them. So I highly recommend this book. It's actually a super easy read. I would love to actually speak much more about this type of life on this channel. So please subscribe, and let's create our little multi-potentialite universe, and let's make this type of personality and this type of lifestyle more known to the people, so that they don't keep pushing us and trying to push us into a certain box that we do not belong in. That box we belong into in many multiple different boxes at the same time. Thank you so much, and Lil B, say goodbye.